Alright guys, so we just finished the story for Dragon's Dogma 2. I have to say, with my thoughts on this, I have no idea what just happened, okay? We went through the entire story. I have no clue what the story was about. I don't really know who the characters were. I don't really understand what mattered or what the heck we should have given a crap about what was going on. And here's another thing I have to say. Dragon's Dogma 1, the first game, I tried to pick that game up and I hated it. I hated with a fervent passion. I literally quit the first Dragon's Dogma about, I believe it's 4 or 5 times. And that means I pick it up, I uninstall it, then I'm like, well, frick, I spent money on this freaking thing. Okay, fine. Let's pick it up again. I pick it up again, then I uninstall it. Then I pick it up again, then I uninstall it. Then I might watch a tutorial video or whatever the frick you want to call it, and then I uninstall it. Okay, I haven't been able to freaking finish the game. I got pretty close, like really close towards the end of the game. I just couldn't do it though. I don't know, I think the last part we got to was like Mercedes in the castle, and there was a dude, and that's it. That's all I remember about the story and the characters. So anyways, that is all without to say, I just did not like the first game. The first game's story sucked, the pacing of the world sucked, getting around sucked, the fast travel teleportation system made absolutely no sense, power scaling made no sense, how to make your weapons do more damage made no sense, none of it made any sense, how to finish certain quests made no sense, how to just complete certain things made no sense. It was frustrating. Some of the fights against some of the beasts was, I guess, kind of cool. It was alright. I wasn't too crazy about it, but it was okay. There's moments of cool environments and boss fights in the first game. In Dragon's Dogma 2, I have to say, and by the way, I hated the environments, Dragon's Dogma 1, but in Dragon's Dogma 2, I really like the environments here. They look really good. The architectural design is a lot better done than in the previous game. The classes, I can't really tell if they're much better, but it looks like they tried to bring in a lot more gameplay diversity. However good or bad that is, I mean, I assume that it's alright. I can't really tell if the new options compared to the previous game, if they're really that strong or if they're really weak. So I have no idea. Another thing about this game is that the music is actually well composed. And I would actually argue that some of the tracks are pretty alright. When you're going through the game and you're listening to some of the combat music, it's actually pretty good. It feels epic. I'm going to be honest, it kind of has a little bit of an Elden Ring feel, which in a large part can only be good. I really like that kind of music, and this game does that kind of music pretty well, but the story in the end was pretty much as nonsensical, meaningless, and forgettable as the previous game. I mean, really, there's nothing going on here. It's very generic in some ways, or just nothing of importance is really going on. The characters are not that interesting. The world that you're stuck in is not that interesting. It has a terrible sense, I'm gonna be honest, has a terrible sense of story pacing and also setting up the importance, the impact of the world that you're in, setting up this immersion. That you want to be in this world, you want to believe it's real, you want that immersion, and therefore you bought this game. Now you want to believe in this game. This game doesn't do that for you. You buy the game, but there's no real good reason for wanting to believe in the game. So story was really lame. I am going to be honest, I really forget a lot of things that happen in the story. And literally, I know what happened in the story. I forgot it all because it just doesn't mean anything. I mean, what? Like, you start out as a slave, and then I guess you get freed because Gorgon chick go cray-cray. And then, you jump off a freaking cliff, and then, you ride eagle, and gay spirit. By the way, that blue spirit dude is freaking gay as all get out. What the frick? Okay, thank you developers for making a random character super gay. Okay, whatever. But, that's not doing the game any great favors. Yeah, the story doesn't really go anywhere. It's not really that interesting. After that, you get your first pawn. Then you run around, you get to the kingdom. You meet a black guy who's a knight. Okay, black people are not knights. Black people are not Europeans. Okay, black people are not Catholics. They're not Protestants. Those are specifically white people cultures, white people religions. Okay, this is ridiculous that we keep on, I don't know what it is with these freaking weirdos, but they want to consistently color wash everything that's white. Nothing is allowed to be white anymore. Nothing is allowed to be of a white culture. And apparently now it's like, we have to just accept this idea, and somehow this is normal, that white people, right? We're just this weird androgynous race, right? That white cultures, apparently Irish people are black. Apparently Swedish people are black. Apparently Australians are black. Apparently Italians are black. Apparently English people are black. Apparently Americans are black. That could be lightly true, but let's just be honest, not even that is true. The main race that came over to the Americas were Irish, German, English. They were a mixture of white races. They were not a mixture of any other race. But we have to do this weird thing now where we have to, we're replacing white people in these stories. And it's not only that, but we have to act like white people are like an imprint race. That, oh, if you have melanin, then any white culture there is, you get to choose, pick and choose whoever you want. It's like Barbie Dream House over here. You get to pick and choose where you insert yourself. Oh, I guess I'm a Finnish guy now. I'm black, but I'm Finnish now. I don't know what the Denmarkians call themselves. I'm going to call them Denmarkians, okay? Whoever the frick the people are from Denmark. Well, if you're black, you can just choose, I associate with the Denmark people. Oh, I'm Ukrainian now. Oh, look, I'm a Russian now. Whatever white people exist, I can just insert myself here because I'm of melanin. I immediately belong to a white race because apparently white people, white culture, white races, they don't exist. And of course, if you go down deep enough into this rabbit hole, well, you know, these wokies, they believe that white cultures shouldn't exist, even though everything good that you've ever had comes from the white cultures. Interesting. So anyways, yeah, you'll go through this entire world and throughout the entire game, and you'll just see a lot of colored people everywhere. You'll just see a black person there, black person here, black person there. Yo, this is Dragon's Dogma 2. Listen, this game is inspired by European morals, values, religion, philosophy, architecture. The entire thing is premised within the cultures and the themes of white people. What the frick is going on here, man? Stop inserting all this diversity into white people stories, white people worlds. This is ridiculous. So anyways, Dragon's Dogma 2 is a complete joke because the amount of diversity you see everywhere, it's like, okay, there's no immersion here. And already that destroys the game enough for me outside of a story that means nothing. Okay? You're not doing yourself any favors. You're constantly pulling your paying customer. Let's say this one more time. Your paying customer. You are constantly throwing them out of immersion of your own worlds. Oh, hi there. Do you want to believe in this world where a human race settled on, let's say, a random planet like Pluto or Mars? Well, sorry about that. Now it's a bunch of cows. Yes, cows settled the places that we told you that the human species settled into. It makes no sense. It's absolutely ridiculous. But here we are, the place that the humans colonized. We went off and we colonized Pluto or Mars. Well, now apparently the cows, they have to be the ones who colonized. And now we're just going to, I guess, species swap all the freaking people, all the human beings. For some reason, it just makes a lot of sense, guys. Listen, the same thing happens here. You can't say that you want to make a story about a certain cultural group and then you directly derive the cultural heritage and the representation of those people. By the way, representation, gay word, but anyways, we're going to use that word here. You're going to take, though, the proper representation, the proper, actually better word, expression of that culture, its heritage, its group, and you're just going to flip it on its head. Oh, apparently all of a sudden, white people are now black. Yeah, I'm sure about that. I'm sure, bro. So anyways, that doesn't work for the game, and that really doesn't help for the immersion of the world that you're stuck in. You don't want to believe it exists. You don't buy into the world that's created here, and therefore the characters are going to matter that much less. The world that you're being shown matters that much less. So anyways, you keep on going on with the story. There's a cultist dude that, I don't know, something about the dragon, and then I think because of him you summon the dragon, and I think he wants to become the dragon, whatever. Then you fight the dragon guy named something. And then the dragon guy, I guess he dies. There's multiple endings. I don't really know what the endings are. Don't really care. Anyways, you can make a choice of, okay, so what is it? What is all of it? It's the dragon guy is basically the representation of the order of the world. The dragon represents the spirit, the entity that's keeping the world from the brink of chaos because of the brine. And he is designed to be opposed by the Arisen, and the Arisen is the main player, and you're supposed to be, all of you are playing your role in the world. You are to oppose the dragon, and the dragon is supposed to be the spirit, right, the entity that your willpower rises up against to fight, and that gives you purpose, that gives the dragon purpose, and that also gives your pawns purpose, because they don't have anything else to do unless you exist, and you only exist because the dragon exists. So everyone's playing their part in this giant play of basically life, and you exist in a cycle where you kill each other, blah blah blah, you fight each other, and you're brave and beautiful diverse populations. You know, you're going through the cycle of everyone existing, everyone having their quest lines, everyone having their stories, just for the sake that you will continue the cycle of willpower against, I guess, order and chaos. If it's not order and chaos, it's just, I guess, sentience versus nature. I'm going to assume it's that. It's sentience versus nature is kind of the idea going on here. And it's your main character that represents sentience in the world. So yeah, it's an exposition dump at the end of the game. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just the developers are like, okay, we're just going to tell you everything this story's about, everything that the world that you're thrown into, what it's about. The brine, I guess, is like a sentient being or something, because like everything that's conceived around you, including your pawns, are made of the brine, including the dragon, and I think including yourself. So it's kind of like the lifeblood, or it's the molecular matter. It's the molecular core of everything that's living within the world, is that it's all made of brine. That seems to be the idea. I'm gonna guess that's the idea. So anyways, and I guess whoever the creators were, I think they're called the Seneschal, which I guess are like weird conduits of God, I guess. All right. Yeah. I think they're the ones that kind of indicate this cycle of life and death between these separate opposing entities and archetypes. So okay, I can't say I give two flying craps, but that's the story that we were given. Listen, man, it's not that interesting. It's not interesting fantasy. It's not an interesting idea. It doesn't really grip you. The execution of it is not really that great either. I mean, the entire exposition dump at the end of the game with Dragon Guy, he sits there and he's like, oh, you know, blah, 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 exposition, and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, exposition. You're riding the dragon's back, and that's the entire purpose of, like, I think it's like a 5 or 10 minute scene. You're just on the dragon's back, and he's exposition dumping you as he flies you to your battle arena, basically. And once you defeat him, the world becomes encased within brine. There's brine tornadoes, and the water's all gone, and then the whole world's about to end. And the whole purpose for you is that you basically, it's almost like you trying to defy fate in a weird way. At least that seems like it to me, that you're trying to defy fate. You're trying to defy the gay blue spirit dude, who's kind of questionably a lady. And I guess the blue spirit dude is some kind of god entity within the world of Dragon's Dogma, I guess. That's a story about it, you know. Then everything just restarts, and you just start your new game plus, and you can do different things on your new game plus. I mean, that's really all I can understand what the story was. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what matters. Again, the ideas are just not there. They're not that interesting. The philosophy is not that interesting. You know what it feels like? It feels like 7th grade level philosophy 101 class, where you consider the idea. And by the way, I'm so glad that, like, for me, I didn't grow up on this really basic philosophical teaching stuff that is going on in modern media all the time now about order and chaos. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that in of itself exclusively, but there are so many more deeper concepts than just order versus chaos. There's so much more to the world and life, and you have so much old fiction and philosophical writings that go into much deeper ideas than simply order versus chaos. Again, that is such a ethics 101 concept or idea. I mean, everyone's freaking bastardizing this at this point. And again, I don't have any issue with anyone writing within order versus chaos. It's just the fact that so many people freaking do it. Dude, it's freaking lazy writing. Just like multiverses, there's a good way to write a multiverse story. But do you understand that nobody writes a good multiverse story? Because it's an excuse to write yourself out of a plot hole that you created. Oh, I did this stupid thing and the most logical outcome would be that my main character dies. Shoot. Well, there's a separate random timeline that I don't know how it exists. It just exists. And I'm not going to justify it to you. You're going to justify it to yourself. How the multiverse exists and how there's another version of the same guy. And basically, we just resurrected the character in the most arbitrary, meaningless, bullcrap manner possible. Freaking stupid, man. It's so dumb the way that they do this. And multiverses are such a lazy idea in all of fiction. It is terribly done. Nobody has a clue what they even mean by multiverses. And again, if you put it within the hands of an actual writer, which means very few people are actual writers, by the way. An actual writer has the intelligence and the capacity to make a good story no matter what concept. You could give them the worst concepts in fiction to write with, and they can do a great job. And I mean it, bro. You could give to a good writer. By the way, good writers are traditionalists. Good writers, they endow themselves within reality, okay? There's a very specific lean and bent of good writers. But you could even hand to a good writer, make a story about woke bullcrap, and they will figure out a way to make it all work. Because a good writer understands how to possess value within their stories. Even the things that are the worst things to write with. The things that kneecap you from the start. Now, typically, if you're going to make something woke, it typically has to end up as a parody in some way. Either it's a unspoken parody, right? It's kind of like a spoof is what you could say it is, or something like that. Like, there has to be a little bit of humor in it or whatever. But however it is that you execute it, good writers can make anything work because they understand the premise of value. And the premise of value is within enlightenment, and enlightenment can only exist within reality. So you give to a good writer anything to write about, they'll do a good job. And then when it comes down to a good writer, all that matters is, and again, let's be clear about this, writing about anything is easy for a good writer. When you're a crappy writer, then writing about anything becomes very hard because you don't know what the frick you're doing and you don't understand the blueprint. Good writers, despite the quality of the ideas that they're working with, they can make anything work and make anything happen. Now, how good is it going to be? It's like, do I really want to see a good writer write about freaking wokeness bullcrap? No. And okay, there's certain wokeness bullcrap that, yeah, it's just not going to work. But again, there's a certain way that a good writer could make it work and could make it happen because they understand what they're doing. And typically with woke stuff, you would have to make it a parody, you would have to make it satire, you had to do something to make a joke of all of it. But there's a way to make it work. But again, just being extra clear on that point, because the whole thing is though, do I still want to buy from a good writer a story about woke crap? No, unless you can get me to laugh at it a lot, then no, I don't want to buy it. And why would you kneecap or handicap your freaking great, you hire a great writer. Why would you kneecap them and make them write within, or why would the writer make themselves write within the crappiest ideas? Why would you do it? That's the issue here, is that although a good writer can make a very good story out of order and chaos, because that's a very interesting concept, very interesting idea to follow through with if you're good at making stories. The problem is that for people who are crap at storytelling, they just bastardize stuff like multiverses and things like good versus evil, order and chaos. They don't understand these things. They don't understand the philosophical premise. And although order and chaos is not the highmost of values within storytelling, it's not the highmost of themes within storytelling, because there's so many more that you can explore, or discover. There's so much more going on that you can do in a story. A good writer can still make it work in the end, okay? Now, what's the problem here? These writers, they don't know what they're doing, and they're not good at their job, and they didn't make a good story. They didn't make a compelling story. The first game didn't have a compelling story. This game is, in some ways, it's very similar to the first game's story. Not completely, but a little bit. Both games are just not compelling with their story. You don't remember anything. You don't care about any of the characters. Like that Mercedes chick from the freaking previous game. I don't care about her. She's not very attractive. She's lame and she's freaking boring. But you know, you have some people who kind of try to act like she's the biggest deal in that game, which I don't know what do you like about her? There's nothing, again, but it's like that's the only character that it seems like anybody remembers from the previous game. There's a couple of characters I kind of remember. I can't really think of them that clearly, but I kind of remember them. And also Mercedes was a bit of a boss biatch, or you know, air quotes on boss babe, right? The whole freaking, she was a girl boss, all right, in her own way back then. But anyways, these are just not the best of writers, and they don't do a great job with the story content that's provided here. So all of it's incredibly forgettable, all of it's incredibly boring and mundane. I just don't know what's happening, and I don't care what's happening. And by the way, it's totally gonna happen. Someone's gonna get carried away about that freaking, the fact that a good writer can make wokeness work. They're gonna be like, see, it can get into stories. No. Wokeness is the bottom of the barrel for making a story. It will destroy your story more than anything. The only thing that you can do with wokeness is make a parody. It really, or make some kind of satire, some kind of comedy out of it. And even then, it's a crappy comedy. No one really wants to see anything about wokeness. Wokeness sucks, and it destroys storytelling. Anyways, no matter how much you kneecap a good writer or a good storyteller, they'll find a way to make most things work, even some of the most despicable things. And I'm getting so tired of bad writers, and they're everywhere, dude. I mean, we used to get good writers within gaming, within a lot of things. We used to have a lot of interesting ideas being placed into stories. I mean, I remember, Nier Automata did a terrible thing, which it says, replay our game a second time with a worse character. 2B is a superior character to 9. For some reason, 9s, we give the player this guy to play as for the second playthrough of the game. He has far less of all the RPG mechanics. It's terrible. I don't know what they were thinking. But Nier Automata had a brilliant story. I mean, and there's things I can criticize about Nier Automata. There's elements I can say it's not that great of a story. It's not that much of a masterpiece. There's more interesting ideas that you could go for. But when we're looking at the entire domain of competition, that is the gaming industry, yeah, it's at the freaking top, bro. Nier Automata has one of the best stories in gaming, one of the best philosophical adventures that you'll ever see in a story in gaming, in many stories in general. It's really good. And the emotional delivery with the end of that game, Nier Automata, oh my gosh, bro, it freaking hits you hard. It is such a great story. I mean, I am amazed by it, and all the ups and downs that you go through. The only issue is the pacing. They drag out certain elements of that game, and they just make it take way too long for the whole storyline with 9s to get anywhere. They should have sped up that story for sure. They dragged it out way more than it ever should have been. I don't have unlimited time to invest into your story. Get to the freaking point, stop dragging things out. Because there is a point where it's just so clear that a writer is just dragging stuff out. And specifically with Japanese or even at times Korean writers, a lot of Asian writers, they'll drag stuff out in a story. I don't know what they think that's for. I don't know what the purpose is in their heads, but all it does is waste your time, and it drags out a story beyond its necessity. I mean, you could say that's a very similar problem of what happens here. This game doesn't really have the ideas. It's not very interesting with its ideas. And then outside of that, it drags itself out for a bunch of stuff that nobody cares about and nobody's really interested by. One game I would say that doesn't drag itself out by gameplay, it drags itself out. But by story, it doesn't drag itself out, is Final Fantasy Remake and Rebirth. I love those stories. I love everything that they jam-pack into it. There's a lot of great moments, a lot of great characters, a lot of great things happening between everybody. Pivotal moments are happening at all times throughout the story. You're not having your time wasted, and I really like that. Again, the open world and a lot of the gameplay, it does waste your time in a lot of ways. Getting from point A to B can take a long time, but when you actually look at the core content of the story, there's a lot of stuff that's developing, so I like that. And that's what's crazy though about this game, is that the cutscenes and the story content of a game like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth it takes forever and it's very long. But for some reason, with how short that Dragon's Dogma is, the game really feels like the story is a slog. And it's just because the story really isn't about anything. It does feel like a juvenile story. It feels like a story for a high schooler that hasn't bothered to read of anything. So it's like, this is your first story that you've ever seen. You're like, whoa, dude. You know, something about cycles and about existence and life and death and rebirth and all blah, 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 right? Like, you know, the world ends, but then it just gets reborn and then it's catalyzed into another version of the same world and the certain same characters live again. You know, the Arisen lives again, the dragon lives again. Whoa, dude. And it's like, yeah, dude, how about you just like actually read an actual story for once? This isn't that crazy, and there's so many other stories that are better. I don't understand. You have to be someone that this is your first time picking up a story to think it's deep. And on top of that, again, the ideas are not here. These ideas are not fantastical. They're not fascinating. There's nothing spectacular about the world for me that I want to invest into it. Quite frankly, I'm bored by it. And even after the story ended, I forget so much of what happened. I don't even really care about the ending of the story. Everything just kind of passes by in my head. I'm like, okay, I guess that was a game. So anyways, I'm so sick and tired of the ESG bullcrap too, man. But my main issue, one of my main issues is the ESG stuff. But outside of the ESG stuff, my main issue really is the fact that a lot of modern writing has no ideas. And all we have is nihilism, and a part of nihilism is that you live your life just to be a part of a cycle and everything doesn't mean anything. We don't have legendary stories where everything matters and it's on the main character anymore. We don't have stories about Captain America, we don't have stories about Iron Man, we don't have stories about where it's the end of days and it's these characters, they are pivotal to this timeline. We don't have stories for that anymore. And we don't have stories like the Odyssey with Odysseus. And by the way, I don't think it's the craziest story. I think that there's way better ways you could have executed that story. I think there's much better that could have been done than what the Odyssey was. But if I'm being completely honest, it's still a great story for what it is. And we don't get stories like that anymore. We don't get amazing, these legendary, heroic narratives anymore about men trying to overcome some kind of adversity because there's some kind of existential purpose that matters beyond their life into death. We don't have stories like that anymore because everything has to be nihilistic now. And it's, yeah, you're doing everything now and it seems like it matters now, but you're just gonna die and then someone else is gonna do it. And that's it, that's our stories. It's all nihilistic bullcrap. There's other stories that are worse with their nihilism, but it's still nihilism. I'm so tired of this freaking nihilistic horse crap. Again, nihilism has become lazy in storytelling, multiverses have become lazy in storytelling, and the concept of order versus chaos has become lazy within storytelling. None of our stories anymore have ideas. None of our stories anymore have speculation. None of our stories any longer have creativity and imagination. None of our stories have really, where the core theme of the story is that the characters just love to be alive and be a part of the world, right? They're somewhat spunky and they're just having fun. The only story I can think of that kind of does that is Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, where the characters, despite the weight of the world that's upon themselves, they're still trying to have fun and enjoy the essence of life as they go on their giant journey and mission within the story. despite how soon they might die, right? The story, despite how at times mature and heavy it can be, and I do think with Rebirth, they do a lot to not take themselves seriously within that story. They do a lot to really reduce the impact and the severity of the world around themselves. But regardless of that fact, there's still plenty of mature, dark, gritty elements to the world and to the story of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Remake, part 1, part 2. And so for that much, that's the only example I really have of a story right now that I really love. And has characters that I really love because they're not trying to give up. They're all aspirational. They're all perseverant. Cloud, he has the Mako degeneration, and it's causing for him a lot of issues. But regardless of that, he's like, no, I'm going to continue on. I'm going to persevere towards my goal, and I'm going to aspire towards defeating Sephiroth, despite the fact that I'm probably going to die very soon. You don't have characters and stories like that anymore, where even if it seems like maybe what you're doing is futile, for the heroic means to an end, you're still pursuing after it. Dude, we just don't have that anymore. Everything is multicultural, nihilistic, hellpot bullcrap nowadays. It sucks. But anyways, I do have to recap. Listen, the environments look great. I do like the environments way more than the previous game. The graphics are not really that improved, but they look better than the first game. They look just slightly bumped up a little bit. It doesn't really look like a modern game. Kind of looks like a game that maybe you would have expected to come out like 2016, 2017, maybe 2018, okay? It's not that impressive, but it's good enough and still an upgrade over the previous game. And one thing I can certainly say is that I enjoy looking at the world, and I enjoy going through the levels, and I enjoy the graphics a whole lot more in this game. It's much prettier, things are better to look at than in the previous game. So there is that. That's one positive that we can ascribe to the game. I do like the RPG elements too, by the way. I do like the fact that you can have these pawns, that you can manage them. I like that other players, they have their main pawn, and you can hire up to 2 secondary pawns outside of your main pawn. So you can have a whole team of 3 pawns, including yourself. That's 4 overall members within the party. And it's cool that you can have these pawns from other players going through the world with you. The pawns have certain quest knowledge, aptitudes. They also have their own different builds that other people built and designed for specifically on their character. All of that's cool. I kind of like that. I mean, systems like MMO light RPG mechanics can be really cool and interesting and fun to interact with. It's just that in this game, it's not really that big of a deal. I don't know if that's really going to keep you in the game for that long. I mean, it didn't keep me in Dragon's Dogma, the original game. In that game, I couldn't complete it multiple times, and I wanted to, and I liked the system, but there were so many things that were vexing about the game. I wanted to like it, and I wanted to invest into the pawn system, but it just eventually, very quickly, it became very clear that I didn't want to continue playing the game, and I was loathing my game time experience. With this game, a lot of the actions and the abilities are pretty much the same, and it does seem like they packed the world with a lot more enemies than they did in the previous game. It seems like you run into packs of enemies a lot more often. It also appears like the bosses are easier to kill than the normal mob enemies, which is kind of interesting. Although I do have to say the bosses are interesting to look at. They're very cool. Some of them have interesting mechanics as well. I do like the boss design diversity that's here in this game. To me, it's better than the first game, than Dragon's Dogma. Maybe I just didn't play enough of that game. I have no idea. But for me, out of all the bosses I fought, it looks like to me Dragon's Dogma 2 actually improves upon the amount of bosses that you experience. Although people do say that a lot of the bosses in this game are pretty much the same from the previous game, except for a few are unique. I don't know if that's true or not, because I just, again, right, I picked up and dropped the game so many times, but I fought a good number of bosses. To me, this is just my thoughts and opinion. I think that the bosses are better in this game with their design. It seems like, though, at the same time, they're a little bit easier to fight than the normal enemies. But, you know, if I look back sometimes in Dragon's Dogma, the original game, this is just, nah, you know what, forget it, bro. I was about to say, it seems like that was kind of the same case in the previous game, but I think it was more balanced, right? The normal enemies were largely as difficult as the bosses, and the bosses were difficult in the right capacities. So it might just be that in this game, yeah, they maybe made the bosses easier. I don't know. But anyways, I'm pretty mixed about this game, and I don't really know what I think about it in the end. Like, do I really, one, is this a game that I really am that interested in purchasing personally, right? If you're looking at multiple games to purchase, and you only have so many that you will buy and put time into, do you really want to pick this up and play it? I don't know. I will just share my personal thoughts. The answer is pretty much no. I think there's better games. I mean, I'm going to be honest, Witcher 3 is a game that was really well worth all of its dollar. I mean, geez, man. You have largely, almost strictly, you had white people in a white person's world. You had a lot of cool enemies and bosses. You have a lot of hot chicks and their boobs out in certain scenes. That is a huge plus. In this game, I don't really know what the romance is much like. I think you can get a topless scene with the women if you pursue romance. I think. I have to double check that. But I don't even care because the women are not that attractive in this game. We don't make women as freaking smoking hot like we used to in gaming. It blows, bro. So in the end, I don't really know what I actually think about the game, bro. But if I had to look at, okay, a select number of games, which ones do I want to buy? I have to be honest, I would prefer to buy Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. Specifically for this year, if we're talking about this year, it would be Rebirth. I would prefer buying that game, especially since you've got Scarlet, who's got a freaking giant rack, bro. Holy crap, that woman's freaking hot. Yeah, Scarlet is a freaking smoke show. She's got freaking giant freaking breasts. And then Tifa's freaking hot. Seeing her all throughout the game and be a part of your party is amazing. The women are very effeminate too in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They behave and they think like women. I love that. They're very cutesy, and there's certain moments where you think it's kind of annoying or it's kind of vexing, but then you're like, oh, bro, it's freaking feminine behavior. I love it. And at the end of the day, you just don't get any of this crap anymore. And just leans into the sexuality and the desirability of these female characters, even if it ever seems like a little bit eye-rolly, certain cutesy moments with the female characters. It's like, you know what? Because they do it like at times specifically with Tifa and Aerith. During the beginning part of the game, they both head tilt at the same time when a old guy asks them a question about chocobos, and they're like, huh? And they both tilt their heads towards each other. It's like, what the, okay. That's like going a little bit overboard in the cutesiness, but it's like at the same time, it's like, well, I'm that much more attracted to the chicks now that they're just behaving effeminately. So it's like, okay, whatever, bro. Fine. Even if it seems a little bit over-delivered, I'll just take it, man. Golly, I'm so sick and tired of masculine women and ugly women and gross women and mongrel women and behemoth women and land whale women and all these women that represent beasts and men. It's like, okay, bro, like why are these women in modern gaming? They all eat nails for breakfast. What the frick is going on here? I don't get it. But yeah, that's just my thing for me. I think that fantasy is dead now. We don't have Star Wars anymore. For one, Star Wars is dead. Star Wars used to be great. Used to have sexy women within these stories, within these games. Used to have good male characters. And this was back when LucasArts was making stories, making games, and now that's a long time past now. We don't have the fantasy of Star Wars anymore. Star Wars is multicultural, multi-ethnic, it is egalitarian, diversity, freaking women and men doing the same equal things. Oh, look at this ugly chick. Yeah, she's a Jedi Master too, guys. Oh my gosh, I hate it. You don't have stories anymore that are about traditional men and traditional women, and the traditional women are smoke show hot chicks. Okay, we don't have stories like this anymore. Star Wars used to be great. It was great fantasy fiction in all of our media products. Now it isn't. It's woke fiction now. And honestly, that should be a freaking genre at this point, is woke fiction, because I mean, they're really fighting hard for it. And I just want to have a genre that I can avoid at this point. Let's separate fantasy from woke genres, okay? Please. Love of God, I'm so sick and tired of this crap. You know, stories are not interesting anymore, man. They don't have ideas anymore. The characters don't mean anything anymore. Listen, if you have a really great writer, you can make any kind of story, again, very interesting. So like, when was the last time, for instance, that we had a really great spy thriller story? When was the last time? When did we have a great James Bond movie? I don't know, don't remember. Because right now, we don't have good writers. Right now, we don't have good storytellers. Every genre you look at sucks now. But like, a good writer can make fantasy, spy thrillers, can make horror, can make all kinds of genres work, because they understand where the premise of value lies within, and they understand what you want to see. They understand what the human mind responds to, and they are capable of making great fiction. Listen, bro, I want to see a freaking woman in some kind of movie like Diora Baird. Okay, once again, I'm sick and tired. Or Sofia Vergara, or Salma Hayek, some chick with a giant breast. She's freaking smoke show hot. I want to see this crap again. I'm so sick and tired. Or also Jessica Alba, and you know, she's different from those other women. Don't care, she's freaking hot too. I'm so sick and tired of ugly women being in everything. It's vexing me, bro. The only game that's coming up right now, by the way, that's going to have a hot chick in it is Stellar Blade. Okay, and that's gonna have Eve, and a lot of the women, they have jiggle physics. I love it. It's freaking hot. Okay, I'm desperate at this point. Just give me freaking effeminate women, sexy women. I mean, it's not like there was ever a time I didn't want this. It's just now I'm becoming desperate. Just give me something, bro. Holy crap, I'm so fed up with the feminism. I'm so fed up with the ugly women. I'm so fed up with white culture worlds being turned into multicultural hell pots. I'm sick of it, man. I just want a good story. I just want good fiction, good fantasy. That's all I want. I want something that's worth the dollar I'm putting into it. And if I'm spending money for something and it's a waste of money, screw you, developer, screw you, writers, screw whoever the frick you are. You're doing a bad job. You need to be fired. And someone needs to take your frickin' place. Someone who deserves their job needs to take your frickin' place. Oh, and before I forget, the character creator sucks. The faces are ugly. The women look freaking hideous, bro. And not only this, but you can barely make an attractive body specifically on the women. Because this is what happens now. We have these androgynous character creators where you cannot make a freaking female. Literally, it's so androgynous that when you're extending the hip length or width of the female character, it's basically like you're extending the hip width for a freaking man. The way that you modify the women in the game is where basically all the sliders are treated as if it's for men. Even when you're adding bust size, it's like adding freaking weird skin sacks as if it were a dude. Now, I mean, technically you kind of are adding breasts, but largely it still sucks, and largely it's still androgynous. Again, just imagine everything that you're modifying is for a freaking dude, especially since you can barely make you cannot make an hourglass figure on the freaking women in this game. And on top of this, if you're trying to also add a little bit of like thigh thickness or any kind of butt thickness as well to the female character, what it innately does is that your female character with the freaking KFC, she took the whole freaking menu and your freaking cat, she cooked the whole thing, and now she's stuffing her freaking face in. And then it went all into her freaking thighs and her legs and her freaking butt. Okay? That is basically the female creator. That's your options. If you want to give your female character a nice butt, you got to make her basically obese. in the lower waist, because there's no such thing anymore as just women who just have nice, desirable bodies. It doesn't exist anymore. And again, the boobs are just weird, bro. It's just like weird skin mounds. Technically, you could kind of say that's like, okay, they're kind of breasts. But seriously, bro, actual women's breasts don't really look like this. This game does weird things, which is how the female characters look. It is the weirdest androgenized character creator you can imagine. And let's just be honest, if you want to make a freaking male character, for the large part, you pretty much can. You can't really make anybody attractive in this game, so you're just going to make a lot of people who either look incredibly average, or you're going to make people who look incredibly monstrous. It's somewhere amongst those two options. Anyway, bro, just the simple fact of the matter is, the character creator is freaking gay. And if I'm being honest, that's just a huge reason alone to not buy the game. It's a woke character creator. I'm sick and tired of this. I mean, what was it that this game did? It did masculine male. I think it's what it did. No, masculine human. And then it was feminine human. What the frick? You can't just say, bro. Literally, what the frick? You can't say male or female. I'm so sick and tired of the freaking wokeness. And also, it's not worth spending your money on these freaking games that cannot just allow you to make authentic men or authentic women. I miss the days of Batman Arkham City. The first time you see Catwoman, she's got this huge hanging cleavage, and you're like, God dang, this woman's freaking tight. This woman's freaking hot. Her boobs look freaking amazing. Her latex outfit is hot. Every angle, every element of Catwoman is sexy. Dude, you look at Batman, you're like, this guy's a freaking beef tank. This guy's freaking awesome. Like, this guy, he looks like a freaking warrior. He looks awesome, bro. You're looking at this guy and you're like, dang, right? I want to hit the gym. I want to get on freaking roids. You know, yeah, and then reduce your lifespan. But anyways, but you know, you sit there and it's just, when you see these old stories, oh yeah, and then Vicky Vale, some random reporter chick, is also a smoke show hot chick in Arkham City. And then you look at Talia al Ghul, and she's freaking hot. You look at woman to woman to woman to woman, and you're like, dude, I'm having a raging hard-on every second of this game, bro. I see women, and all of a sudden, I'm freaking turned on. Like, this is getting me through puberty. But nowadays, everything that we partake in, it's like it's suppressing your freaking hormones or something, suppressing your freaking testosterone. It sucks. I freaking hate modern media. I freaking hate this crap, bro. And again, we were at a point where we had higher expectations than stories that used to be great. We wanted better than great because we knew that the bar could be risen. But now we've destroyed the standard so far. I mean, listen, there are better stories than the Arkham series, and there could have been better stories than those. There could be better stories than Lord of the Rings, than even Star Wars itself. But the bar has been dropped so low that now we're just begging, please bring us back to when things were just normal, bro. But listen, we should have better stories than what we've gotten in the past, because there's so much better that we could have now, but we're not doing that, and we're not capable of doing that because the right people, they're not being hired for the freaking job. I'm sorry, specifically the right men are not being hired for the job. And listen, man, I don't want to hate Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't want to be against it more than is necessary for anything. By the way, there's issues with microtransactions. Yeah, it's a huge issue in all of gaming, bro. I mean, you have all these developers, they're trying to fleece you for money. They want to extract more money out of you than what they're worth, and than what is worth the content that they're providing you. This is a huge issue in a lot of games, and yeah, they do it with this game too. They do some really stupid microtransactions that shouldn't be in the game. But listen, dude, I don't want to hate this story, but without a doubt, feels like lazy fiction, and I'm just so tired of lazy fiction. I want an epic story. I want a grand tale to be told. There's so many ways that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has screwed up its own story in a certain variety of elements, but at least it gets the core fundamentals right, unlike everything nowadays. But I am simply sick and tired of lazy storytelling, lazy fiction. I want great stories again, and I want stories to be better than what we've gotten in the past, because we can do better than what's been provided in the past. But right now, we have these storytellers who are just lazy, and they don't respect traditionalism. They don't respect the values that normal people hold any longer these days. We have to push all this modernity bullcrap. Great stories are not made through the lens of modernity. I want great stories again, and I've already detailed what that means. And right now, we don't have great stories, and I'm just simply getting tired of it. This game falls under that umbrella, and for me, it's just not worth the money, if I'm going to be completely honest. I don't see a product that's worth buying here, and I am desperate right now just to finally get a great story with sexy women in it. I want the full 9 yards, and it seems like right now it's just way too difficult to hire the right people for the freaking job.